Now we're all here at the side of a field somewhere in Hampshire, to quote Pulp. I'm enjoying this global boiling because the sun's out. But for me, it doesn't really get hot until you get to about 33 degrees. Then that's when, you know, the days get really interesting. So I wanted to talk to you all about the narrative of the Matrix, and, you know, are you enjoying the storyline that's been given to everyone at the minute? Because I think it's quite boring, to be honest. So I thought, well, play along and see what people come up with. And I was thinking, if you had a fantasy football league sort of thing, but only with prime ministers, in living memory, which prime minister would you elect to put in right now with all the problems that are faced? And obviously I am only going to go from the Second World War because, you know, I know we had Chamberlain and Baldwin before that, but if we start with after the war, so 45 to 51, we had Clement Attlee, and he was well known for, oh, blimey, I'm not going to be able to get through there. Sorry, I got totally sidetracked then. What's going on here? This is ridiculous. Oh, I'm through. Where was I? Clement Attlee. Yeah, Attlee, sorry. Yeah, he was 45 to 51. And what were his achievements? Well, he started the NHS, and also he was famous for privatising industry, and that was his main claims to fame. Then after that we have Winston Churchill coming for his second term after he lost the election after the war, which shocked a lot of servicemen. I was speaking to an old boy years ago, and he told me when he was away on service, when they heard the news that Churchill didn't get in, they were absolutely shocked, stunned. So there you go. But oh blimey, this is going to be more tricky than I thought getting through here. So then we had Sir Anthony Eden after that, who, let's be honest, he only did from 55 to 57, and his main accomplishment in that time was probably dealing with the Suez crisis when the Egyptians took over the canal and resolving that problem so we could keep our empire running. That was his main achievements. And then we had Harold Macmillan, and he was Conservative, and that was from 57 to 63, and he just kept his hand on the rudder as they was completing the atomic testing and other just run-of-the-mill stuff, so nothing too amazing. But then we have Sir Alex Douglas Home, and he was Conservative, and he didn't have a long term. He was only in for a few days short of a year. I think it was 363 days or something like that. But one of the things which was his main achievement was the price maintenance situation, and that was just him keeping his hand on the rudder for the Conservatives until the next election. But after him, things got really interesting, because we had the big election of 1964 to 1970, the reign of Harold Wilson, the first Labour candidate to win for quite a few years since, obviously, the war, after the war with Clement. So his main achievement was obviously low unemployment and really working for the people of the country. But with that comes great problems, and if you remember him, then you'll get into the sort of age group which are watching my videos. So let's have a look. Is that someone behind me? Anyway, who we got next? Then we have Sir Edward Heath from 70 to 74. And this is where the controversy really gets in, because the introduction to the single market, the common market, the European Union, and we're still suffering them decisions now, aren't we? And nobody can make up their mind up what's best for this country on that problem. So would you have that wrong'un? Because we've all heard the rumours, and I don't need to reiterate them here. There are plenty of places you can find to tell you why that man was such a wrong'un. So that was him. Would you have him back in power? I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. So who come after him? So Harold Wilson got back in after that for a couple of years. So that was from 74 to '76, and he oversee the referendum which was going to take us into the common market. And I remember talking to people back in the day when they said they never knew anyone who voted for it, but I don't know, I wasn't alive at this point, or yes I was just so, but I wasn't politically, how can I put it, knowledgeable. Then we had James Callaghan from '76 to '79, and he was just a Labour MP that just kept his hand on the rudder. Not really that much to speak about, to be honest, other than the normal problems you face while trying to run a country. But then we had obviously the '79 election, and we all know what's coming next, and that's the infamous Margaret Thatcher. Now this is where I start to come in. I just about become politically aware as a tiny child in a school, and I used to be given a third of a pint of milk in a little glass bottle with a straw. And one day they come in and there was no milk, and I said, is there no milk? And they said, no, Margaret Thatcher's snatched it, she pinched it, so you don't get it anymore. And this little lad here thought there was actually a woman called Margaret Thatcher who come to the school and pinched the crate of milk. Maggie the milk snatcher, as they called her. But by God, she did some stuff in her term, and I mean, this is living memory, but there's a lot of people who would have her back in a shot. But you got to remember the Falklands crisis she had, and she did spark a lot of comedy, and I don't think spitting image would have been a thing without the arrival of Margaret Thatcher. So I'm sure she's going to be up on many people's fantasy politicians list. Scratch me nose, I've got a fly on it. Then we obviously had John Major after that. Now he's obviously Conservative again, so is Margaret Thatcher, and he went from 1990, because obviously Margaret went from '79 to 1990, then he went from 1990 to 1997, and John Major was obviously most notably, how can I put it, commemorated for his achievement with peace in Northern Ireland. And I think that the groundwork he put in there was massive, and I think it should be recognised. But then we go on from, flies are doing my nut in. So then we have, mind you, he did really help the spitting image as well, didn't he? The grey man, I remember that, I used to love. And for the honourable gentleman to the answer I gave a few moments ago. He was so dull, but he liked his cricket, and allegedly used to enjoy reading The Prince by Nicholas Machiavelli, so there's much to be said about that man. But then we had the infamous Tony Blair come in '97 with his sweeping election win, which things can only get better, and by God did they not. We did not know at the time how corrupt that man was, and if we could go back in time, I wish we could change it. Obviously Labour, and he was from 2007, was it to 2005? I'm gonna have to check that. Can't remember. But yeah, Tony Blair, oh, what an absolute poor excuse of a human being. Now, what that man done would go down in history, and if he stood washing his hands at a sink, he could stand there till eternity and he would never be able to wash the blood off of what that man did. And if anybody seriously wants that man back in any sort of power, I question their sanity. And then after that, when he gave in, and just have a rest for a second. Then we had Gordon Brown, didn't we, from 2007 to 2010. And obviously, yeah, Blair was I'll remember now, it was 2005 to wasn't 2005, it was 2007. Then we had Gordon, and he was a right Charlie, selling off all our gold. I mean, what an idiot. Anything of something of actual tangible, touchable value, and he sells it off for next to nothing. Well done, Brown. Good move. Did you not read economics anywhere? Oh, sometimes you wonder where these people come from, don't you? But then I think after that we had David Cameron as Prime Minister, Conservative. That was the coalition years, of course, with the Liberal Democrats, Nick Clegg, and that was just an embarrassment of a situation, really. Trying to put right some of the things that have gone wrong over the last several years, you know, especially with the Brown-Blair presidency, where, you know, if you really want to go off on a tangent sideways, probably shouldn't say this on here, maybe you might want to question the events of 7/7 around them two characters. You might find what you turn up there very interesting. But, and you also got to remember that Blair character was in bed with all that Bush cartel, with all the Iraq wars, weapons of mass destruction. So we're on the other side of that with David Cameron from 2010 to 2016, and from what I can remember of that guy, he used to like a bit, is it necrophilia with dead animals, was it pig's heads, I seem to remember. Said it was for a bet, some sort of initiation, more likely, so they could hold it against him at a later date. So I wonder what he did wrong to get that exposed. But from 2016 we had another Conservative, Theresa May, and she went all the way to 2019, and she just did her best to keep the banks happy. But then we had the clown himself, Boris Johnson, from 2019 until I don't actually know now. I can't remember when he was gone, before he was took over by the Truss lady, Liz Truss. But it's become such a clown show, I've actually stopped taking as much notice. But I mean, that was just a strange lady just to look at, so I don't know what you think of that. And then we got the poor excuse of a Prime Minister now, which is Rishi Sunak, and I don't know what he's meant to stand for or believe in, or he's certainly not a Conservative. So there were the choices over the last, look at that, oh God, over my shoulder, that's the Solent, that's the Isle of Wight you can see. It's beautiful, isn't it? When I feel up to it, I like to come down here, it's really grounded. But so I'm interested, so put in the comments if you could choose a Prime Minister from the last 70, 80 years to try and sort out the problems, if you could. Like they could do anything about it, but just as a little game, put in the comments, say I reckon this Prime Minister would have sorted it out, but probably within the confines of what they was able to do at the time. Obviously, as you go, each Prime Minister you go back, they have less and less, they have more and more control, you know, to the point where the Prime Minister these days don't have any control over anything. They're just mouthpieces for the banks and these elite families. So they're all bought and paid for, as you know, if you've been watching these videos. So, well, this is it. So it was just an idea I had. I wonder what you thought of it. Choose a premiership Prime Minister to serve the country for the next God knows how long, and for what for, who knows. But who would you choose? Put it in the comments. What Prime Minister would you say, this one for me, and why? What did they achieve what you think might resolve the issues of the modern day problems? Come and join me in the next video. Well, I'll just show you the Solent, as I say. Cheerio.